Yep, Big Blue is heading into the shop today. I got a crazy story about this one. So a couple of months ago, I was being proactive and starting to contemplate whether I was going to put in the SMB 60-gallon tank into this truck that a lot of RVers do. Thought, you know, that'd be pretty nice since we've had some issues, especially when we were driving along the Mississippi, our very first trip with this truck last June, like the same week we bought it. We had the RV hooked up and it was really hard to find places that were big enough to pull into along the river. Like a lot of the fuel stations were ma and pa type, and you know, we were going through the hills and everything, and it was a really big eye-opener in the first week of owning the truck, just how stressful it can actually be sometimes trying to get fuel. I felt like that whole trip, the highlight was me trying to scope out where the next fuel stop was going to be. And of course, being a new owner, I didn't know what to expect out of this truck and how far we could go and how, you know, I didn't know anything, you know. It was brand new to me. So we did a lot better going down to Florida because we were along the interstate most of the time, and we had a lot of truck stops and things to pull, you know, big places to pull into. And it still though was, I was filling up, and then I was trying to scope out, okay, about where we're gonna need fuel. Probably gonna need it somewhere along here, and we'd hit a half a tank, and we'd, you know, my wife would be spending a lot of time trying to figure out where the next stop was gonna be. So I didn't want to deal with that this year, especially hitting out west, because you get out in the mountains, you get out in the places where fuel is far and few between. I didn't want to be in a situation where we're running out of fuel, especially when it's hot out. Running that fuel pump low, it's really hard on them. And that's a mistake a lot of people make, is they run these things so low and they burn up things. So there's a whole lot of other issues too with the CP4 fuel pumps. You don't want to be running them low. Looking at the SMB 60, and they said if you own a 2017, and this is, and it was manufactured before this date, and it was, I think it was in April of 17, that you need to go and get a new sending unit card. Basically, that's the card that the float hooks up to in the tank. That's what basically is the brain of, well, the float there, and you know, and telling it where, you know, what position that float is at. That card in my truck was supposedly not put in. The correct card was not put in. This actually affects, I think, gas and diesel from that year when Ford did the big changeover. Apparently some old cards were getting in there, something got messed up. So if you have a gas, I think it's just a card that needs replacement. And if you have a diesel, it actually turns out that I think I have the wrong size fuel tank. We're supposed to have a 34-gallon, which is almost laughable seeing that my old Suburban had a 35-gallon. I guess this gets better mileage towing anyways, but 34-gallon is what we're supposed to have, and we have got the 29-gallon, which would be on the regular cab trucks. So if you were to order a regular cab short box like a F350 or F350, you would get a 29-gallon fuel tank, probably because of the shorter frame and just the room. I ended up looking up this card to get the new card before getting the SMB tank, because if you put the SMB tank in and you leave your old card, it's going to read wrong, and the problem is going to be amplified. Basically, it's it's gonna say empty, and you're still gonna have 15 gallons or a quarter of the fuel sloshing around in the tank. You're really only gonna get 45 gallons, and you're gonna have a 15-gallon reserve. I mean, I guess who's not gonna like that? But $350 for the card, so there's no way I'm paying for that. So I called Ford up, and they said, of course, they had to come in for a diagnostic, and the only way I could get this card is to have them look at it and install it. That was it. So I said, okay, well, we brought it in back in February, and they said that yes, not only do you need a new carb, but you need a new tank. They didn't tell me why. They didn't know why. Again, very sure it's because we have a 29-gallon tank. So today we're going in to get the 34-gallon. So if you, and the new card, so if you have a Ford, you know, SuperDuty, and this is, I think it's all of them, F350 through F450, maybe higher. I don't know all of the models, but from 2017, the first half of 2017, or if your truck was manufactured at the tail end of 16, yeah, you basically have the wrong card and probably the wrong tank. I think I'm still gonna get the SMB 60, but we've been spending money like it's going out of style here lately on upgrades for the camper and upgrades to get the YouTube channel up and going. And so I think we got this trip coming up south here pretty quick in the next few months. I think we're gonna probably hold off on the tank until maybe like June when we get back and before we head west, which we don't even know how far and how long we're going to be gone when we actually do head out west. So jury's still out on that one, but at least this tank will give us 5 more gallons and it'll be reading correctly. I did buy a 5-gallon diesel can that I'm going to carry in the back. I don't even want to fill it with diesel, but it's kind of like one of those things. It's like carrying a gun. Why would you carry a gun unloaded and empty? You might as well leave it at home. So I just didn't want to have diesel fuel sloshing around, and my theory behind carrying a can was if I got in a situation where I ran out, I'd rather have ran low, I'd rather have a can on me to put fresh diesel in than to trust somebody else, and don't trust anybody to show up and you know, with diesel to dump in your, you don't know how old it is or where it came from. I also was thinking the can could come in handy if we end up at a mom and pop place that we can't get into with our rig. These are just options. It's always good. I always like to say it's good to have options. Wow, 215 miles to empty at half tank. I like that. We'll see if that actually stays once we start driving. All right, well, here's the crawl test to see what we see. Yeah, it does look a little cleaner, I guess. Smells like diesel under here, and I can definitely see where there's been a bunch of diesel spilled. I tried to run the tank down as much as I could, but they kind of surprised us with, well, first telling us that it was going to be 2 weeks before the tank came in, and calling us a day later and saying, just kidding, it's here now. I ran it down as much as I could. We were down to about a third. And somehow I've got a half a tank in there now. I'm not really sure how that works. You think a bigger tank, if they took my fuel out, it would be less in the other tank, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. It looks a lot like the other one, but I'll have to do some crawling around under there, kind of check it out here at some point. But I'm gonna do my first fuel filter change. I got an oil change, my second oil change. Of course, I do all that myself. So gotta get that done here before we hit the road. All right, folks, well, this busy bee's gunning to go. So until we see each other again, take care.